My bed's a loft bed now, so this intro is gonna be a lot harder.
Hey everyone, it's King 3DD here again, and this time I actually got a video request. Yay! The person requested me to make a video about the Lord Fool, but I realized I could make a longer video if I just talk about the entire Colosseum of Fools as a whole. So I'm gonna do that. So yeah, this time we're not just talking about one character, but instead a whole bunch of characters that appear in the Colosseum of Fools. So this video is actually going to split up into multiple segments. First, I'm going to talk about the Colosseum of Fools itself, as well as the lore of the Lord Fool, and then I'll talk about all the other characters who appear in the Colosseum. Is that alright? Alright. Alright. The Colosseum of Fools is in the Kingdom that is owned by the Lord Fool. Before the fall of Hollow Nest, people from all over the land would visit the Colosseum of Fools to test their strength. It's called the Colosseum of Fools because you would really have to be a fool to even compete there. Upon the fall of Hollow Nest, nothing really changed about the Colosseum of Fools itself. Sure, some of the warriors got infected, but they weren't really affected by it at all, even less so than the Mantis traders, which is extremely weird considering the fact that the Mantis traders took in the infection willingly, while the Colosseum of Fools warriors didn't. Huh. So there's a few different areas in the Colosseum of Fools itself. The first one is the small pit that's near the entrance. Inside this pit is where the warriors rest after battle. There's a bench, a room where the spirits and regrets of those who fell in battle are locked into a room for God knows what reason, and a hot spring. There's also a cage where they keep the war criminals. Now, let's go to the Lord Fool himself. Alright, who's the wise guy? The answer's me. I edit these. I write the scripts. This is just some self-deprecating humor, alright? Very little is known about the actual Lord Fool himself. All that is known is that he's the owner of the Colosseum of Fools and has won over all the trials. He's also dead, although no one in the Colosseum seems to know or even care. If I'm being completely honest, I don't have much to say about the Lord Fool himself. I've been trying to come up with theories about him, but I don't really have any. So instead, let's move on to the far more interesting, wacky cast of fools that we have to talk about. I'm not gonna talk about Tiso this time because I already made a full video about him. And I'm also not gonna talk about the war criminal either, but I am gonna talk about every other fool that you can find in the Colosseum. So first, I'll talk about God Tamer. God Tamer is the champion of the Colosseum who wields a type of nail they like to call a long nail and wears red and gold armor. The beast she rides looks like a combination of the Balder and the Elder Balder, and also acts like it's one. So yeah. God Tamer is also a backer character, and the beast she rides is said to be a lobster, which would have been awesome. Fun fact, in the code, the beast she rides is still called a lobster, and her original name was the Lobster Lancer. If the beast that God Tamer rides is killed during your battle against her, God Tamer will just give up on the fight. So no matter what, God Tamer will always live your battle against her. Next up, I'll talk about the first bug that you meet in the Colosseum, the Little Fool. The Little Fool is a generic-looking bug who's chained upside down from the ceiling on the Colosseum of Fools. He also has way too much dialogue for a character who doesn't have an actual name, so I'm going to read the dialogue that's actually important to his character. Here's the first line that I feel interested in reading. Oh, and have no doubt, I'm a fearsome warrior myself. Don't go judging me by my size or current constraint. The Colosseum beckons us both. I'll be back into battle soon. Honestly, I find it hard to tell if Little Fool is telling the truth here. I mean, look at him. How would that have worked in the Colosseum? That doesn't. No. If you place your mark on a trial board, leave the Colosseum, and then return and talk to Little Fool, you get the following dialogue. You placed your mark and left. What cowardice! A true warrior strides unstoppable into battle. They gain strength from defeating their foes, not from flight from them. This line shows the Little Fool cares a lot about battle despite the fact that he's, chained up from the ceiling. Anyway, the last line of his that's interesting is his dream yell dialogue. So let's take a look at that. Lord Fool, give me another chance. I'll prove my strength to you. This line shows two things. The first is that the Little Fool is likely unaware of the Lord Fool's death, and the other is that the Lord Fool is likely the one who ordered for him to be chained up, which I find to be extremely interesting. We don't know much about this character, so any piece of information we can take is extremely helpful. Next up, we'll talk about the bosses of the Trial of the Conqueror, that being the Oblobbles. The Oblobbles are a gigantic version of the Obl enemies. According to their Hunter's Journal entry, they spend their entire life with their mate and will go into a frenzy if their mate dies. There is literally nothing else to say, so let's move on to the members of the audience. Members of the audience can be found in the hot spring in the Forgotten Crossroad after obtaining the Mantis Claw. They can't be talked to, but they do have some Dreamnail dialogue, so look at that. Another weak one. I'd suggest to try it snail in the Colosseum, but it would no doubt be squashed in an instant. Yeah, well, they were wrong. Very wrong. Lol. Now let's move on to the audience members that are, actually in the audience. The only thing that they will do is laugh if the following conditions are met. Those being if the knight dies, when the two sturdy fools in the second trial are killed by the spikes, during the fight with Zoe in the first trial, and when the grub mimic is revealed. The next character that we have to talk about is the Pale Lurker. She's a warrior who has a white helmet and a yellow robe, and was actually the former champion of the Colosseum before going insane. Fun fact, the Pale Lurker's insanity actually had nothing to do with the infection, as she's not even infected to begin with, and she might not even know the infection exists. She went insane over, get this, a simple key. Excellent. Even though the game doesn't consider the Pale Lurker a boss, she might as well be one. She's the only enemy of her kind in the entire game, and her patterns are very boss-like. The Pale Lurker is found in an area in the Colosseum of Fools known as the Pale Lurker's Retreat, which added in the Godmaster update because they needed a way for you to get the simple key to unlock the coffin in the junk pit, to get to Godhome, to do all the Pantheon stuff, which is very, very hard. So yeah. And lastly, let's talk about all the fools and unique enemies in the Colosseum of Fools. Time for a turbo round! Yay! The shielded fool wields a nail and a shield and looks like a male god tamer. Sturdy fool wears a yellow helmet and tan armor and basically functions the exact same as a husk miner. The heavy fools look like slugs and have green helmet and tan armor. The winged fools are the only female version of the fools and have wings, wield a nail, and have a yellow helmet with tan armor. The armored squits are armored squits, and the sharp balders are sharp balders. The Lobbles wear adorable little masks, and the Death Loodles look extremely menacing for something that's called a Loodle. And lastly, the Volt Twisters are war criminals. And that's all the inhabitants of the Colosseum of Fools. I did forget to mention earlier that the Colosseum of Fools was an unmet stretch goal that was added into the game anyway, or it was really supposed to be in a fungal waste, which would have made a lot more sense than Kingdom's Edge, because, the mantises are extremely interested in battle, but, yeah, that doesn't really matter that much. But that's all I've got to say about the Colosseum of Fools. Be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all next time. Might even cameo on a French channel. Later. Oh, and before I go, shouts to Division, the person who gave me this video request. He makes cool videos about the Radiant bosses. I think that's pretty neat. Later, for real this time, but bye.